Hello guys, welcome to Storytimes. Thanks for joining us. Today we've got a brand new story to share with you. Support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I promise, even more interesting stories. Also, let us know in the comments which city you're watching from. Now, let's start today's story. I still remember the first time I saw Daniel. It was at a local fundraiser for the elementary school our niece attended. He was standing near the punch table, charming a group of parents with his well-rehearsed stories and polished charisma. At the time, I thought I had found the man I would grow old with. He was attentive, respectful, and seemed genuinely interested in my dreams and ambitions. I was a school counselor back then, dedicated to helping kids through their troubles, while he was working his way up as a project manager at a growing tech company. Our early years were warm and full of those little moments you think only happen in romantic films. Late-night coffee runs, spontaneous drives, binge-watching crime documentaries, and cooking together in a tiny kitchen with a broken stove. I didn't come from money, and neither did Daniel. So, we made do with what we had and believed that love was enough to fill in the gaps. It was good. It was more than good. It was strong. Or at least, I thought it was. Looking back, I now realize that things didn't just fall apart overnight. It started slowly like a leaky faucet. At first, you hear the occasional drip, but you ignore it. And then one day, your kitchen floor is soaked, and you're wondering how you let it get so bad. He started working late. Meetings, deadlines, urgent projects. He had all the usual excuses. He'd come home tired, slump on the couch, barely touch the dinner I made, and fall asleep mid-sentence. I told myself not to be paranoid. After all, hard work was what got us out of that tiny apartment and into our modest two-bedroom home in a quiet neighborhood. I was proud of him. I defended him when my sister raised an eyebrow. I even laughed when my friend Monica jokingly said, "I hope he's not working late with someone else's wife." But then came the silence. Not just the kind where people sit in the same room without speaking, but the kind that feels like a canyon stretching between two people who used to be inseparable. He stopped asking how my day was. He stopped listening when I told him about a student who made progress or a coworker who annoyed me. He wasn't mean. He just wasn't present. Like he was physically there, but mentally miles away. One Saturday morning, I decided to surprise him at his office. I made him lunch, his favorite grilled turkey sandwich with extra pickles, and showed up unannounced. His office was empty. Not just his desk. The entire floor. It was a weekend, after all, that we told, but he had told me he had a full-day strategy session. I remember standing there, clutching the brown paper bag, feeling my stomach twist in ways I couldn't explain. I went home and waited. When he returned, hours later, I didn't say a word. I just watched him as he slipped off his shoes and loosened his tie, pretending like he'd spent the day in meetings. I noticed a faint trace of perfume on his shirt. Something floral. I don't wear floral scents. That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, counting the number of days, weeks, and months I had ignored the signs. I wasn't just heartbroken. I was furious. Not because he had possibly cheated, but because he thought I was too naive to notice. I didn't confront him right away. I wanted proof. I needed clarity. So I waited. I played the part of the supportive wife. I packed his lunches, kissed him goodbye, and even bought him a new briefcase. And while he was out, working, I began digging. It didn't take long. One afternoon, I went through our shared laptop while he was at the gym. I wasn't proud of it, but desperation does strange things to a person. I opened his email, and there it was. An entire thread with a woman named Kayla. She was a marketing executive he had met at a conference. The messages started out professional, but slowly turned personal. Then intimate. Nothing explicit, but enough to make my skin crawl. He had taken her to the beach. The beach we used to go to every summer. They had dinner at the Italian place where he proposed to me. He even called her Sunflower, a name he once used for me. I felt like I was watching someone else's life fall apart, like I was outside of myself. I closed the laptop and sat on the floor for what felt like hours. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there hollow. The next few days were a blur. I went through the motions at work, smiled when I needed to, and made dinner like everything was fine. But inside, I was plotting. I didn't want to just leave him. I wanted him to feel the weight of what he had done. I wanted him to lose the very things he took for granted. So I began my plan. I quietly gathered every document I needed. Bank statements, property deeds, our prenuptial agreement, which thankfully had a fidelity clause. I reached out to a divorce attorney, someone recommended by a friend who had been through something similar. I made copies of emails. I even found photos, ones he didn't think to delete from the cloud. But more than that, I began to turn the people around us. Subtly, strategically, I started mentioning little things to our mutual friends. "Oh, Daniel's been so busy with work lately," I'd say with a sigh. Sometimes I wonder if he's spending more time with his coworkers than with me. It planted just enough doubt. I didn't accuse. I just hinted. I also started reconnecting with my own circle, something I had stopped doing during the marriage. I went out more, not to find someone else, but to reclaim pieces of myself. I volunteered, took a cooking class, and even joined a book club. It was my way of reminding myself that I existed outside of him. Then came the confrontation. It was a Wednesday night. He came home late. Again, I had set the dining table with candles, wine, and the grilled turkey sandwich he used to love. He looked surprised. "What's the occasion?" he asked. I handed him a folder. "Just thought we could go over a few things." He opened it and saw the printouts, the emails, the photos, everything. His face turned pale. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I simply said, "You broke this." "Not me. But I'm the one who's going to fix it." He tried to explain, of course. Claimed it was a mistake. Said it meant nothing. That he was stressed and confused. But I didn't let him finish. "Don't insult me by pretending this was a moment of weakness. You built a life with someone else while I was still here, building one with you." I told him I was filing for divorce. That the lawyer had already drafted the papers. That I was taking the house, as per the prenup. And that I had already informed his HR department, politely, of course, that I would no longer be attending the annual company gala. His mouth hung open. He didn't expect this version of me. But I had been quiet for too long. He left that night, packed a bag, and went to stay with a friend. Or maybe with her. I didn't care. What mattered was that I didn't crumble. I stood up. For myself. For the life I deserved. And as I sat on the couch that night, sipping the wine I poured hours earlier, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Freedom. And it was only the beginning. I still think about that night sometimes. The night she handed me the folder. At first, I didn't understand what it was. I thought maybe it was something to do with the mortgage or a surprise vacation she planned to rekindle whatever spark was left between us. But then I saw the emails. My emails. The photos. The dates. The names. She knew. Every last detail I thought I had hidden. Every excuse I made. Every lie I told. Laid bare before me like a mirror I couldn't look away from. It wasn't the anger in her eyes that scared me. It was the calm. Like she had already processed the pain and moved on to the next phase. Justice. I'd be lying if I said I didn't deserve it. Her name is Claire, my wife. No, my ex-wife now, legally speaking. And she was always the strongest person in the room, even when she didn't speak. She never needed to raise her voice to command attention. She just had this quiet power about her. I used to love that. I used to admire it. And somehow, along the way, I took it for granted. You might expect me to justify what I did. To say I was unhappy or that I felt neglected. But the truth is, I don't have a good reason. I wasn't some broken man who fell into an affair out of desperation. I made a series of selfish, calculated decisions. I met Kayla at a business retreat in Portland. She was funny, smart, and flirted just enough to make me feel important again. I hadn't felt like someone's priority in a long time. Not since Claire became wrapped up in her career and the lives of the kids she counseled. But again, that's just me reaching for an excuse. The truth is, Kayla fed my ego. And I let her. It wasn't just a fling. It lasted almost a year. Business trips turned into weekend getaways. Late-night texts turned into shared hotel rooms. And through it all, I told myself it wasn't hurting anyone. That I could keep both worlds separate. That Claire didn't need to know because she'd never understand. I underestimated her. After she confronted me, everything moved fast. She had lawyers ready. Documents filed. Our bank accounts separated. She even had witnesses, people I thought were friends, who had quietly started pulling away from me. I didn't realize it then, but she had been planting seeds. And when the time came, those seeds bloomed into the perfect storm. I lost the house. The very house we built together from nothing. I remember standing in the driveway with my last box of clothes, watching her close the front door behind me. She didn't slam it. She didn't lock it dramatically. She just closed it. And that quiet click felt louder than any argument we ever had. I moved in with a friend. Temporarily. Tom, my college buddy. He was gracious at first, offering his spare room and beer in the fridge. But it didn't take long before even he started looking at me differently. It wasn't just judgment. It was disappointment. Like he couldn't believe I had done this to Claire. And honestly, I couldn't either. Kayla, she was all apologies and promises. We can start fresh now, she said. No more sneaking around. Just us. But I wasn't ready for that. Maybe I never was. You see, Kayla wasn't what I thought she was. Outside the thrill and secrecy, there was no foundation, no real connection. We had nothing in common beyond our betrayal. And once the adrenaline of the affair was gone, all that remained was awkward conversations and the realization that I had dismantled a marriage for something that wasn't even real. Claire, meanwhile, was thriving. I heard about it from mutual friends and social media. She started posting again. Photos of her at cooking classes, volunteering at shelters, and hiking with a group of new friends. She even changed her last name. It wasn't petty. It was powerful. She wasn't trying to erase me. She was reclaiming herself. I watched from the sidelines as she rebuilt her life brick by brick. She wasn't angry. She wasn't vindictive. She was strategic. And in her silence, she delivered the most crushing revenge of all, success. People rallied around her. Even my own family distanced themselves from me. My mother, who adored Claire, told me over the phone, "You made your choice. Now you live with it." That stung more than I expected. My sister didn't invite me to her baby shower because Claire would be there. And it's better for everyone if you don't show up. I wasn't just losing my marriage. I was losing my community, my identity. The final blow came at work. Word had quietly spread about my personal misconduct. No names were mentioned, but in a world of office gossip, it didn't take long for people to piece it together. Kayla and I were both quietly reassigned to different departments. She eventually quit, claiming she couldn't handle the judgment. I stayed, but every meeting felt colder. Every email felt distant. I became a cautionary tale. I tried reaching out to Claire once, just a message. Simple. "I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you." She didn't respond. She didn't have to. I knew that part of her life was over, and so was I. But here's the part no one tells you. When someone walks away from you with dignity, it leaves a scar deeper than any shouted fight or broken plate. Her revenge wasn't in ruining me. It was in rising above me. And the part that haunts me the most? I don't hate her for it. I admire her all over again. There's something strange about living in the aftermath of your own decisions. Like walking through the ruins of a house you set on fire. Months had passed since Claire and I divorced, but it felt like I was still stumbling through the wreckage. Some days I'd wake up expecting to hear her humming in the kitchen or find her reading on the couch. But the silence in my apartment reminded me, sharply and without mercy, that she was gone, and I had only myself to blame. Kayla and I didn't last. I think deep down, we both knew we were never built to survive the light of day. Our relationship had been based on deception, excitement, and the thrill of secrecy, not the solid foundation of shared values or trust. Once the consequences arrived, there was nothing left to hold us together. She moved to a new city. She didn't even say goodbye. And me? I stayed behind, living in the Claire, and I had built a life a life I had so recklessly destroyed. I watched the seasons change from my small, one-bedroom apartment, each one marking a new chapter in my quiet descent. But Claire? She kept rising. Her photos stopped showing up on mutual friends' feeds. Not because she stopped living, but because she started living away from the eyes of people like me. She stopped needing validation. She found her circle, her people, her peace. I heard from someone that she had started speaking at women's conferences. Not about me, specifically, but about rediscovering yourself after betrayal. Finding purpose. Letting go of what tried to break you. I imagined her on a stage, calm and composed, telling a room full of strangers the story of how she rose from ashes someone else created. She wasn't trying to hurt me. That's the part that stung the most. If she had lashed out, I could have told myself I was still in her thoughts, that I mattered. But she didn't. She didn't send me bitter messages or try to take more than what the court had given her. She simply moved on. That was her revenge. Not a loud, dramatic takedown. Not humiliation or destruction. Just thriving without me. But life has a way of teaching lessons slowly. I thought I'd rebuild. That, eventually, I'd find someone else. Start fresh. But something always held me back. I didn't trust myself anymore. Every time I met someone new, I saw the shadow of my past choices lurking behind my smiles. Every conversation reminded me that I was a man who once walked away from the best thing that ever happened to him, for nothing. I tried dating. It always ended the same way. I'd get distant, withdraw, lose interest. Because how do you give someone a version of yourself that you don't even respect? I saw Claire once, about a year later. It was by accident. She was leaving a bookstore downtown, laughing with someone. Another woman, maybe a friend or coworker. She looked lighter, like someone who had let go of every burden. She didn't see me. Or if she did, she didn't let it show. I stood there for a long time after she left, watching the glass door where she'd passed through, remembering the way she used to walk, the way she used to laugh. I didn't chase after her. What would I have said? I'm sorry doesn't rebuild a marriage. Regret doesn't heal wounds. It just sits there, heavy and constant, like background noise you can't turn off. Eventually, I did what most people do. I kept going. I went to work, paid my bills, took care of my parents when they needed it. I became a man who didn't break rules anymore, who didn't flirt with risk, who sat in the back of meetings and left happy hours early. But every now and then, I'd think about the man I used to be, the one who thought he was invincible, the one who believed he could have it all without consequences. And I hated him, because he was me. I got a letter 2 years after the divorce. Not a dramatic one, just a polite, handwritten note. It was from Claire. Hi, David. It began. I'm writing because I believe closure is something we don't always get. But sometimes, we need to give it to ourselves. I'm not writing to forgive or to forget, just to release. What we had was real, even if it ended the way it did. I've moved on, and I hope you have too, in whatever way makes you whole again. Take care of yourself. Be better. For your own sake. Not for anyone else's. Claire. I read that letter 100 times. And every time, I cried. Not because it was cruel, but because it was kind. And I didn't deserve that kindness. That was the last I ever heard from her. I didn't respond. What could I have possibly said? Instead, I took the letter and framed it. Not to glorify the past, but to remind myself that real strength isn't loud. It doesn't scream or destroy. It rebuilds. It walks away with dignity. It chooses growth over vengeance. Claire didn't ruin my life. She just stopped protecting me from the consequences of my own actions. Her revenge wasn't about punishment. It was about peace. And in the quiet that followed, I found mine too. I live a smaller life now. Simpler. Quieter. But not numb. Not lost. Just aware. Aware that some mistakes don't come with a reset button. Aware that losing someone like Claire wasn't just the end of a marriage. It was the beginning of a lifelong lesson. And that lesson, if you betray someone who loves you purely, the worst punishment isn't losing them. It's knowing they never needed to hurt you back to win. Because they already did. By becoming someone you can never reach again. Someone who became more after you gave them less. Someone who turned betrayal into beauty. And you? You just learned to live with it. Alone.